So at UFC 290, Volkanovski's beating Yair Rodriguez, and there's been a lot of discussion on who Volk fights next. Some people think he just continues to defend at featherweight. Some people think he should instantly fight Makhachev. Some people think Makhachev should fight Oliveira and then Volk takes the winner. Some people think that Volkanovski shouldn't even bother moving up. Well, today I've got the step-by-step plan that makes the most sense of what Volkanovski and Makhachev should both do. Do I think this will happen? No. Is it reasonable and does it make a lot of sense? Yes. Starting off with step 1. We need to book Charles Oliveira versus Islam 2 for October. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking. Oliveira versus Makhachev 2 got stopped pretty quickly in the second round. Makhachev dominated. Makhachev versus Volk, very, very close. So your initial reaction is to rebook Volkanovski versus Makhachev. You don't want to do that. Volkanovski has just fought Yair Rodriguez, and Makhachev's not going to be willing to wait another couple of months for a fight, because I don't know when Volkanovski's going to be ready. I don't think he's going to be ready for September or October. I think we just book Oliveira versus Makhachev for a main event in October. Makhachev hasn't fought since, what was it now, February? Oliveira hasn't fought since June, and his last opponent was Beneil Dariush. They're going to rematch eventually, let's just put it on. Volk can recover from Yair Rodriguez and take a couple months off the fight to ensure that he's not being a little bit too active, and Ilia Topuria isn't again waiting months for a fight. This is the best thing to do. Like I said, if we were to just go straight in there with Makhachev versus Volkanovski 2, Makhachev would have to wait even longer. He probably won't. His fight will probably be like, I don't know. I just don't think he'd want to. I don't think he'd want to wait any longer. Oliveira would have to wait until like the beginning of next year or the middle of next year. Topuria's not going to have anyone to fight besides any contenders that are spare. Just doesn't really make much sense. Yeah, let's just do Oliveira versus Makhachev 2, and then we can have Volkanovski waiting and recovering. Step 2. After that fight has happened, let the winner of Islam versus Charles recover for a little bit, and then we book Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria for November. Volkanovski's going to be fine by now. Ilia Topuria is like kind of like the final contender that Volkanovski hasn't beaten. He's beaten Ortega, Korean Zombie, Holloway 3 times, just beating Yair Rodriguez. He's beaten Aldo. He hasn't beaten what's his name, Arnold Allen, but he got beaten by Holloway, so I'm not going to count him. The only real contender left for Volkanovski is Ilia Topuria. I think Ilia deserves a title shot. He's been on a crazy run. He's undefeated as well. Let's do Ilia Topuria. Would be so much hype. I think this would be bigger than Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. So much hype. Do Ilia versus Volkanovski in November, and then we can let the winner of Islam versus Charles recover. This way, everyone's happy. Islam's just fought. Charles has just fought. Topuria gets a title shot. This just makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's step 2. Step 3. If Volkanovski manages to beat Ilia Topuria, that means he's completely cleared out the featherweight division, and he should now be called the featherweight GOAT. And now we can move up to lightweight and clear out lightweight, rather than him going to lightweight and then having to go back to featherweight to beat Ilia Topuria. Because people are always going to bring up, oh, you didn't manage to beat Topuria, so let's just clear out featherweight for good and then move up to lightweight. If Topuria wins, then Volkanovski should get an immediate rematch, because he's been, what is his 6 defences now? We should get an immediate rematch, and instead of the winner of Islam Charles waiting, they should just defend their belt against the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, which is happening at UFC 291. So, yeah, that everyone's sorted at this point. Now, assuming that Volkanovski wins, if Volk beats Ilia Topuria instantly, then we can do, the winner of Islam versus Charles for the winner of Volk versus Topuria, and if it's Volk, then finally we can have Volk versus Islam or Volk versus Charles for the early 2024 era. If Topuria was to beat Volk, then the next best thing we could do is, like I said on the previous step, would have an immediate rematch. If Volk was to win the rematch, then he should fight whoever's got the lightweight title, whether that be Islam, whether that be Charles, whether that be Gaethje, whether that be Poirier. Whoever has the lightweight title, Volk wins. If Topuria beats Volkanovski in the rematch as well, then why not do, when either Topuria's got 2 choices at that point, he can either defend the featherweight belt or he can move up and fight for the lightweight belt. But that's if Topuria was to win. But if Volk beats Topuria, then we can finally do Volk versus Islam or Charles or whoever has the title, to be honest, but it will be one of those two, because Gaethje or Poirier wouldn't have had a title shot by this point, because remember, these guys fought, is Volk versus the winner for early 2024, and we can finally see Volk face them. Instead of just rushing in there, it just makes sense to me. And yeah, that's exactly what we do, in my opinion. That is exactly what we do with the lightweight division. That's exactly what we do with Volkanovski, Makhachev, Oliveira, and then Gaethje and Poirier kind of just fighting for the number one contender spot. So whenever there's a title fight free, they step in. That's why if Poirier was to beat Volk, then Gaethje or Poirier can then go and fight the lightweight belt, whoever's got it then. And yeah, this makes no more sense in my opinion. Instead of just rushing a fight with Makhachev versus Volkanovski immediately, that means Poirier has to wait, Oliveira has to wait. Plus, Volkanovski has literally just fought Makhachev. At least give him 2 fights in between instead of rushing him right in there. And I know you can say the same thing about Oliveira and Makhachev. Oliveira's only had 1 fight in between, but first of all, that's his own division, and second of all, it stops anyone from waiting. I'm sure Oliveira wants to get in there as soon as possible. No one's getting hurt. Well, actually, yeah, a lot of people getting hurt in that octagon. But yeah, I think that's the best possible. I think that's the best thing we can do. It makes the most sense. Yeah, that's what we should do with Islam. If you agree with this, please tell me below. If you don't agree with this and you have a different take, please let me know. But yeah, this is just my personal opinion on what we should do with Volk, Islam, and Charles.